Tens of thousands of football fans came to Highbury. Electrifying.
Yes, guys, we'll go back to the instant reaction right here on the Cannon Podcast. Thank you for joining us. Arsenal 2, PSV 2, Arsenal advance to the Champions League quarter-final. It says so much about our Arsenal fandom, does it not? I'm joined here by Alex Forder, as George is not here. George is in Montreal. It says so much about our Arsenal fandom, does it not, Alex? That we would watch that over Real Madrid. Let's go. I think have we heard the result of that just yet? I haven't seen.
98 minutes played, still 1-0. So
still 1-0. Okay, so maybe that will come out. It's going to extra time, so that might happen, or maybe we'll go to penalties. So if if anyone's watching this, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. So thank you for all of you watching it back. 2-2. We're through. How you feeling just on that? It was a bit of a dead rubber game, so it's good to get through.
Feel all right. I mean, I said to you I had a migraine earlier, so kind of go through that, have a little sleep, get up just to watch that. I mean, I think that speaks volumes, doesn't it, about us? Maybe more than the football itself. But I mean, the result, to be honest, I wasn't surprised. Looking at previous fixtures, I think we had 4 wins, 4 draws against PSV in the Champions League previously. So it seems like it's always kind of going to come. And when you're in a position when you're 7-1 up on aggregate before the match even starts, it's going to be a game that's hard to get up for, to be honest. So yeah, I mean, I'm happy with the performance. There's not many takeaways, to be honest, but there's a couple, so we'll get into them. But yeah, all in all, I'm happy.
Yeah, we got it done. Look, I think there were a couple of moments, where players get done, or you worry about a certain individual or a certain player, but it's difficult on these nights when you're not playing. You're not only not playing the sort of the protagonists, as Emery would say, the protagonists themselves are slightly maybe aware of the stakes of the game, and that's understandable. I think PSV were aware of that as well. So it became a bit of a ceremony. I think I saw someone on BBC Sport describe it feeling like an overseas exhibition game. And I was like, yeah, that's sort of the similar, the sort of the sarcastic applause and things like that. So there was a sort of certain vibe to it, which is weird for a Champions League game, and it must have been weird to know how to prep for it in the dressing room because they, I mean, to be fair to them, they came out, and I will say over the whole course of the 90 minutes, energetically, I didn't feel there were too many massive dips. I felt like we kept it up. When the subs came on towards the end, I felt there was some life in them. I didn't feel we were sat back. Players like Declan Rice, I still think went for it this evening. But it must have been a weird one to get yourself up for. Let's talk about the goals. First one, Zinchenko. Que golazo, Alex. Que golazo.
Oh, mate, begs a question. Would Odegaard have taken that shot?
Here we go.
I mean, I'm just putting it out there. I think I actually tweeted saying Odegaard out, Zinchenko in. That's it. We finally found it. No, I mean, it's a fantastic finish. It was so nice to see. I mean, it wasn't just about the finish. It's the fact that throughout the game, he was willing to go forward. He was willing to pick up those spaces. Played that role so differently. But that finish was lovely. It's something. I mean, even when, I was younger watching Wenger ball, I always felt like, come on, please shoot from those areas. And I think maybe it had a little tinge of like the Euros to me, where players were trying those, and maybe it's because where we were on aggregate, both teams felt like, you can take those shots on. But it was a lovely finish, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was really nice. Yeah, I think when you mentioned how he plays it differently, I just want to maybe colour in there, because I think where Odegaard maybe, I think on the off the ball stuff, I think you can see the timing and how he organises things. I think there's obviously a cut above, but that's only understandable. I think also in terms of the combinations in breaking down those smaller games, and when we do go to almost the smaller space games on the right hand side, I think Odegaard's there. But when the game's a bit wider, when the game's a bit more broken, I quite like Zinchenko in those pockets and picking it up. It feels like he is willing to he's willing to push the game a little bit more and willing to drive a little bit more and carry a little bit more and look for that final ball earlier than maybe a Martin Odegaard. But yeah, we won't get into Zinchenko Odegaard debates right now. Then we had the Perisic goal, which I think, what did that come from? Was that the Kivior giveaway? Kivior gave the ball away a few times.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
I feel for him a little bit. I mean, someone put he was out of position in every goal. I mean, maybe he was out of position in Zinchenko's goal as well. I'm not too sure, but I mean, it was one of those ones where I wasn't surprised. It was a pretty good finish, to be fair to him.
Yeah.
Did it just Tottenham connection? You know, it's one of those ones where you think anyone but him.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Had to be.
Keeper have a goal. I don't just not Perisic.
He was probably their best player over the 2 legs. I thought Perisic. He did really well. I was surprised they took him off. I to be honest, that first goal, I remember the finish, but I remember it being quite quick. So yeah, anyway, to be honest, I think in terms of whether we need to analyze it particularly, I'm not sure. The Rice finish from the Sterling assist, right? So we'll go through the individuals in a second and probably break down some more. We'll come to Sterling in a second. But just in isolation, it was a lovely bit of skill off the touchline. He sort of controls it, keeps it from going out, beats his man. Hey, who knew? Lovely ball in, and I love the celebration from Rice. He's as chronically online as the rest of us.
Yeah, I did think about just coming on, just doing that. But no, and it's nice to see Sterling do that. Recently he's almost, I don't want to say looked for the foul. He hasn't kind of looked like he's confident in beating his man. And there are several moments where he did that. It was great. And great again to see Rice coming through, like what form he's in. I think that's 3 GA in the Champions League now. But that box crashing, I mean, something maybe we missed against Man United recently with him kind of coming up in those areas. But it was a great header. Great header.
Yeah. That was really nice. It was really nice. As we said earlier, it's difficult to do kind of team analysis and spacing and all that stuff when we're looking at a team like this in the context of this tie. So maybe it's better to just do individuals. Let's start from the back. Yeah, Kivior. It's tricky for him. Do you know something I will say about Kivior? He looks smoother on the ball and he looks less angle biased than I think maybe when he first came in. It might be because he was playing on that side, but I feel like he can open his body out and use his right a little bit more than he ever did, and he looks like he receives the ball in sort of like more fluidly. I just feel it's really tricky because you're jumping in, you're trying to achieve Saliba's level. But there's a few too many times when I feel whenever Kivior's pressed that he can lose his head a little bit, and it's not even necessarily we see the situations where he's giving the ball away, but it's also further up the pitch. He kind of I feel like when he's under pressure, he can kind of have that. The players get like the brain fog. They just have that slightly like I'm just going to do the simplest thing. I'm just going to boot it. I'm just going to smack that ball away. I'm just going to get rid of it type thing. And he does it all over the pitch. It's not just where he is. And I just worry that composure. I think what I was maybe seeing before the fluidity came for me was like I thought it was a technical thing. I'm beginning to think more it's a more of a mental thing for me with Kivior. It's tricky because he's like our 8th defender or something, like 7th, 8th defender. So it's like, how good can you expect that guy to be? I don't know. He can play left centre back, left back, and right centre back. I'm not pushing him out the door because I think this is a player who can come in and give us a decent level. He's just not at the level of Saliba and Gabriel, but that's completely understandable and okay.
He's perfect for a tie like this, isn't he? Because he's always available. He can play more or less across the back line. Maybe not right back, but we've seen him on left back, and he had some good games in that run he had at left back. But I do think it is confidence. I remember there was the whole thing with him even getting a photograph. Was it a Community Shield? He wouldn't get a photograph of that, and he had to be kind of dragged over, even with little things like that, and it starts to add up. And I think for the top echelon of teams and players, the confidence is, what sometimes gets you over the line, and that's the difference between making, a last gasp, last ditch tackle, making the, the pass that goes through the lines, taking on the shot that scores the winner. And he just doesn't seem to have that. The one thing I would say is it's quite nice that the players around him still seem to have some confidence in him. Yeah. It's not like they're always bypassing him. When we are being pressed, we're still passing that direction. We're still allowing him to have the ball. But I mean, how much? Yeah, like you say, how much can you really expect of Kivior? So
yeah,
it's a hard one.
Yeah, and this is why I'm not like, and therefore he needs to go. If he's willing to stick around, if he's versatile defender number 7, whatever it might be, like it's sort of okay. Gabriel though, I thought I mean the recovery from that Ben White moment was absolutely unbelievable. I thought he was covering on Bakayoko basically all night, giving absolutely no space. And if you look, sometimes I mean the spaces he's occupying as a centre back, how far forward he is to go hunt players down, it is insane. And the fact he's so good over his shoulder, he's so good everywhere. And he just loves defending. And I suppose that's maybe the big sort of juxtaposition with Kivior, is that Kivior, you feel like he's not that he doesn't love defending, but there's a kind of there's an anxiousness. Whereas I think Gabriel thrives. He just absolutely loves it, and I think people love him for it. And yeah, I mean, I said to a couple of people, like, I think this season, no one wants to lose Saliba. No one wants to lose Saliba, but this season has massively convinced me that if we lost Saliba, we would be okay, certainly on that side, in terms of a defensive leader, in terms of a someone who we can say, okay, this is a guy who, no matter what, he's going to be available, he's going to be consistent, he's going to be reliable, and at that level. Because, and I think Saliba even said yesterday in his press conference, he said, like, Gabriel's carried him at points this season. I really feel they pulled alongside each other. And they really complement each other. And yeah, again, no one wants to lose Saliba, but that's not how I felt maybe 18 months ago.
So what you're saying is you hate Saliba?
What I'm saying is sell him now for £10 million. Yeah.
Now, I mean, there's an argument to say Gabriel is possibly the best kind of two-box, I don't want to say two-way player, but two-box player.
Like two-box player. Yeah,
both box, you know what I mean? Like, in terms of like defending a box and attacking a box, there are very few players in world football that are as good as him. I mean, yeah, that celebration from that tackle, like, when you're 8-1 up an aggregate, I don't think you need to celebrate that hard. But for him, I really don't mind that. That's like part of who he is. And he must be horrendous to play against and a joy to play with. I think one of the few things he kind of had in terms of holes in his game was his passing and kind of going between the lines. And originally with Calafiori coming into the squad, I looked at that transfer as possibly filling that gap and maybe that being away, but he's stepped up in that. He sometimes, he's going into those channels, he's moving forward. He's just unbelievably good. And it's so nice that he's actually getting the flowers he deserves now, because he really is up there in terms of best defenders. In terms of left-footed centre-backs, there are very few that come close.
In terms of specialists, yeah, absolutely. Before we move forward, let's go to the stats. Arsenal 2, PSV 2, 1.5 expected goals to 1.4, 9 shots to their 13, 7 shots on target though to their 5, 51% possession to their 49. Yeah, it was a fairly even game. There's a running XG, and the numbers that you can see over the first and second half. There's the shot maps and where the goals came from. There's a nice little chip for the second goal, which maybe we didn't discuss. But again, I feel like the only place they were going to be able to get us was on the transition. I think sort of both times we gave the ball away and then we're sort of recovering and panicking. And there it is. We may have got through to the quarterfinals, but more importantly, we won on field top. I can't. Such a dead rubber game. I can't even do the joke. Let's carry on with some more individual analysis then. Raheem Sterling. Look, I know I have a bit of an agenda against him. I know I do, and that's okay. I find, look, he's going to get the plaudits for this evening, and probably what's going to happen is we're going to look back in 2-3 years time and go, oh, remember that PSV game we got 2 assists? The performance.
I don't know if we will, Alex. I'm going to be honest.
Well, I'm telling you, there are contrarians out there who will go, yeah, but Sterling wasn't that bad because remember that game against PSV. In moments, Sterling can provide you something. When there was a moment towards the end, centrally, where he's dribbling, and this is actually something when George and I picked up in the initial scouted. Centrally, he's way better. Out wide, he has no quality in being his man anymore, apart from that one moment this evening, which was. But in terms of consistently being his man on both the inside and the outside, he's got nothing. There was a moment where the ball broke to him in the defense. I think he dropped back into right back. So this was probably maybe before he changed sides. He just stands still. And I've spoken about him many times, and I think the fact he's going to get an assist for that Zinchenko goal is very flattering. It was probably one of his better games in an Arsenal shirt. I appreciate I have a bit of an agenda, but I still can't. My big thing, and this is a bit old school, but my big thing is if I feel that you are trying your absolute hardest, I will go in to support you. Kivior, Tierney, very one-dimensional player in this team at this point, but I back him because he's trying. I'm going, do you know what, mate? I realistically, he probably limited us down that left-hand side of the ceiling, Tierney, because he picks up the ball and he puts it into the box to, Sterling at the back post, and it's just not particularly useful. But he's trying. He's absolutely, I believe he's playing for the badge. Raheem Sterling is waiting for the ball to come to him. Raheem Sterling is, when he receives the ball, just knocking it back. Raheem Sterling, and I don't want to, on one of his best nights, I don't want to give it to him, but I don't know. I think people will go, well, and I don't buy that for this game. I'm sorry.
No, I mean, I don't think anyone's going to be worrying about him missing the first leg of the semi-final.
Is he suspended?
Yeah, he'll be suspended now, which is crazy because I think it was like the 92nd minute he got a booking. And I think that just speaks volumes as well. You're one of the most experienced players on that pitch. Yeah. And then you go and do that. I just think there's just no need. There's no need whatsoever. So, but yeah, I mean, all in all, I was looking at his stats. I mean, I will say that 1-on-1 as well. I think he made the wrong decision because he continued on the same kind of trajectory and angle, came onto his left foot. I just thought, I don't know, maybe that's just being a little bit pernickety, but even on that, I just felt you could have done better. But
I think he's got man of the match, and I know people will say, "Oh, this is really hot." Yeah, I just think it's, for me, in terms of the application, that's the one thing for me, and maybe that is unfair. But when I feel someone's lack of application, that's something I can't excuse, and I still feel that from Sterling. But there you go. What have you made of the Merino experiment?
It is what it is. I think he serves a purpose. I think today he linked play. I mean, in the first half pretty well. I think second half the performance in general dropped off anyway. I don't see. It's so difficult. I don't see sometimes the correct runs from him that I would be expecting for a centre forward, which may be harsh because he is not that by trade. But for someone who's so aerially dominant, it would be nice sometimes. Maybe it's instruction, like make that run, like the Declan Rice run, make that run into the box, because especially when you got Kieran Tierney on out of the left, who's got such a fantastic delivery, I think he really should be making that run in terms of like, I think someone's just said here, he's beginning to look like an extra midfielder. And maybe that's my own kind of prejudice because I played as a forward as a kid. So for me, I look and I just think those runs, that's what we need. But
yeah, I think
it's difficult.
To be fair to him, he combines okay on the edge of the box. I think there's a couple of nice moments. Calafiori had a lovely moment this evening. Wish that had gone.
Yeah.
And I think he's a nice presence up there, and he can win something. He's a couple of flick-ons and stuff to Declan Rice, but I do agree, and I think this is a kind of a theme with Mikel, is that he won't be saying to him, "I need you to be the centre forward." He'll be saying, "Let me adapt to the centre forward position to you," which is actually something said in a recent interview with Patrick Davison. He was talking about this and adapting players' games, and it just a lot of the time feels like we've got an overload, and we haven't got the player making the run to the back post or whatever it might be, which is actually where he scored the goals in the Leicester game. I think probably what's happened is he was told you're playing centre forward, didn't have much time to think about it, and then played like a centre forward. And now he's had more time to think about it in training. They're like, well, maybe just adapt your game slightly. And it's for me, it's not quite the same thing. It's difficult, isn't it? Because we're critiquing a guy who isn't a centre forward playing there for the whatever it is, and we don't know the instructions. But for me, I look back to Mikel, and I don't know. I think we're leaving, especially as you mentioned, with Tierney on the pitch. It was very one-dimensional this evening from that side, and that's why I think a lot of the play went down the right-hand side. get Merino in the box. Like that can be the target. You know what I mean? So yeah, I didn't quite understand that, but there you go. Let's come to some comments before we wrap up on this instant reaction, because frankly, people want to watch the Real Madrid.
I'm checking the score, mate. I'm checking the score.
What's the
still 1-0?
Still 1-0. Who would you prefer to face?
Oh, see, I know I'm going to get slated for this. I'm not saying we'll beat Real Madrid, but for me, especially from this, I mean, the Simeone, I don't know, Simeone Defense League, that he's just got that nailed. And I look at it and I think with the players available to us in the first leg, I just think that's like our kryptonite playing against Atleti. So for me, and plus, if you're gonna go through and play one of them, go and play the big names. Go and play your Mbappe's, your Vinicius. Go and put yourself up against. I prefer that from a neutral standpoint, from a footballing standpoint. And I think for our game and the players available, for me, I think Madrid, like Real, would be the better one. What about you?
I don't think we'll beat either. Sorry to be a Doomer fan, but I'm accused of being too positive half the time, so you got to win. I don't think we'll beat either, and I would prefer, as you say, to go to the Bernabeu, to have that experience, to go up against them, to see the level, and to kind of break that down, because it feels like the team that I wouldn't. I think even maybe Bayern, but Real are really head and shoulders the team that I would go, we need to be tested against them, and I quite like that. I think there's something in that, and I think there's also something. I also think there's something in. I think we'd do all right against them. I think we'd probably have some nice moments in terms of defensively. I think we'd probably keep the scoreline down. I think we probably would score a couple against them because of how attacking they are. I think they'd eventually get through because of their quality. But I just would love that thing of like, we faced them probably next point, sort of next year. We faced them last year. We didn't look too bad. We're better this season. We can go and do it. I think that would be quite good, to be honest.
There's some real interesting matchups as well. Like Timber, can he lock up a Vinicius? Saliba and Gabriel against Mbappe. I think just Declan Rice in midfield, the energy he brings, and I mean, there's some fantastic little undercurrent storylines there. I'd love to see that.
No, for sure. Patrick says, can Raya stop playing midfielder? Interesting with Raya. I thought well, I mean, he's always going to have a high starting position because that's the way he plays. But he's been even higher than normal recently. He's really high at the moment, and I wonder if that's an instruction to do with the centre forward. I don't know. I don't quite. I'd love someone to ask, because it feels like he's always sort of pushing up, but it would normally be when the ball went in behind. But now it feels like the first touch when the ball goes back is always Raya, and he's always the one really almost in the centre circle a lot of the time. So it's a slight tweak. Spacetime 34 says Sterling was fine. He was great off the ball too. Way too harsh. Look, I know I've got an agenda, but I'm sorry. Other than Saka for England, there hasn't been a life-changing game that the boys have been in so far as a group. Yeah, I think there's something in this. There's something in, and also, on the flip side, if we beat Real Madrid, like what do you know what I mean? Like what a kickstart for the rest of not the rest of the campaign, but what a moment in our campaign, and what a moment in this Arteta project to go and do that over 2 legs. And look, there's a world that happens. I don't think it happens, but there is a world that happens, and it's possible. But I think the experience of playing in that game is really important for us.
To be fair, we've got 100% record there as well. So I mean, albeit, it's not many games played there.
Yeah. What is it? Was it 2 or 1?
I think it's 1, isn't it?
One game at the Bernabeu ever.
I think. Is that right, chat? Tell us.
I saw our head-to-head, and it was like 3 games or 2 games, but I can't remember if they must have come to us at some point. Let me come to a few more chats. Nathan Papa says, to be honest, Trossard at times does the same thing, waiting for the ball to come to him. Fine, but there's bad habits and there's bad habits, and I think Trossard is a net positive for me personally. I've liked Trossard this season. What have you made of him?
He's kind of flit in and out. For me, I actually prefer him in central zones, like as a false nine. He's asked to do a role that he's not really tailor-made to do, which is really interesting, isn't it? Because we've just talked about Merino being asked, do what kind of suits you. As Trossard, I feel sometimes he's, too far out on the touchline.
Yeah.
He's a moments player as well. I think for the money that we paid for him, it's been an astute buy. He's really come up with the goods at crucial times as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it's something I've said on pods and people are going to be bored of me saying it, but like when we're assessing issues, this player's not quite up to it, whatever, Trossard, for example. Trossard should theoretically be our 7th attacker. Realistically, if you think about it, Jesus, Havertz, Saka, Martinelli, Sterling should have been the 5th attacker in terms of reputationally and in terms of financially of what we're expecting. I would expect more from Sterling, and then obviously we found one area as well. So I think theoretically he's there, and then we're expecting him to change our season. We're going, oh, Trossard's not in the right zones. It's like, or Trossard didn't do the right thing. We haven't supported Trossard. It's not optimal anyway. You know what I mean? So I find it, it's hard. It's hard to be too harsh on him, to be honest. I think he's done pretty well. I'd be interested to see what happens this summer, because if we do get another big offer and we're adding 2 on top, I can't see where Trossard comes into this team. But there you go. Ben White off the pace tonight, says Denny. Lack of sharpness, maybe? I think so. I think there's a couple of moments of concentration which happen when you're making your way back from full fitness. I think it's not only that he had the surgery and was off, but he hadn't been quite right for a long time before and had been and so he's been adapting his game. So he's now readapting his game to having a fully fit leg, basically, which is always going to be different. I thought it was okay. The one thing we've missed from Ben White is the timing of his releases in the final third. Yes. Timber is okay and can do a job for us, especially on the underlap, as we know. But in terms of a winger playing that ball to Ben White and knowing if I make the run, I'm going to get the ball back at the exact right time, Ben White is brilliant for that. And it's been important for us. And then there's the running, and then there's the defensive quality, etc. So I think it's really, really important. Final thing maybe we need to discuss before we finish is the ref. And I only say this because, the Kivior yellow was a joke. I don't understand that at all. But the Rice one, I think I'm right in saying, if he gets a yellow in the first half of the next tie, the first game of the next tie, he misses the second leg, which is really frustrating because it absolutely wasn't a yellow.
Yeah.
Is that true?
Yeah, I think if anyone can tell us that, I'm pretty sure Timber is on yellows as well.
Interesting.
Which is which I thought. I could be wrong, but I remember thinking when he was coming on, I thought, is this right? And I was looking at the Rice substitution. Like, did we take him off too late? Is that something? Oh yeah, Wackles is saying yeah. So. Yeah. We cannot afford to lose Declan Rice.
Rice and Timber, especially if it's a Real Madrid, would be a big problem. Big problem.
The form he is in, he is the heartbeat of that team right now. He just always steps up as well. Big moments, like huge moments.
Yeah. Shame. We'll finish with this. Only 2 English sides have scored 9+ goals across 2 legs of a Champions League knockout tie in the UEFA Champions League era. Any guesses who the other team are?
Arsenal women's.
Man City versus Schalke, which was 10-2 in 2019. And Arsenal versus PSV, which was 9-3 in 2025. And Raheem Sterling either scored or assisted in both ties. Maybe my agenda needs to drop. Leave
Raz alone.
Leave him alone. God, Jesus Christ. Thank you for doing this, Ford. I appreciate it.
No worries, mate. Always a pleasure.
Thank you for being here with us live on the Cannon Podcast. We've got TCP Live coming tomorrow. We've got a scouted episode for Hugo Ekitike coming on Friday. We've got an instant reaction on Sunday with Forder and a very special guest who we will be revealing on Sunday because neither George or I here. George is in Montreal, I think he is. So he's missed the game. Thank you all for being here. Really appreciate you. Thank you so much for watching. And thanks for keeping Arsenal.
Tens of thousands of football fans came to Highbury.
Electrifying.